Okay, this is video part 2. You already have your pattern created. You have cut out your pattern from the white paper. You have removed any detailed pieces and used those to create your fabric patterns. You have your front with your pieces and you have your back, which is hanging off to the side. We're not using that just yet. So let's talk about how to get these pieces stuck on or sewed on to the front of your character. The first thing you're going to need is a needle, right? We need a needle and thread. Now, a lot of my students are sometimes afraid of using a needle because it is sharp, and that is true. They are sharp, but the sharper it is, the safer it is. So your needle will have a nice sharp point. It doesn't really hurt if you touch it gently, but please don't try to poke yourself with these. And for this, we're using embroidery floss, so we want a needle that has a large eye hole so that we can fit the floss through there. So the first thing you do is choose the color floss that you want, and we're going to begin by sewing the button onto the eye. I'm going to choose white floss for this. You can get this floss at any sort of craft store, like Michael's has it. So you just pull off the paper and then you're going to find the end of the floss. The end is sometimes frayed and makes it difficult to thread your needle. So I suggest cutting off the very end first before you try to get it into the needle head. So I find the needle, I take that floss in between my fingers, and you're going to put it right through the hole of the needle, which can sometimes be tricky. So just give it a shot, get it through, and pull it out the other end. Now, once you have that pulled out the other end, you don't want it to be too long. I would say probably about 2 feet is the length that you should have it. It's doubled right now. You can see that there's 2 pieces that are through the eye hole. So you're gonna measure, stretch it out, measure it, and then cut it so that they're even. You're gonna need this white thread later, or whatever color you choose, so you can put that off to the side. So now you have the end with the 2 pieces. To tie a knot on the end of your string, you are going to bend it like a rainbow and crisscross it. So it's gonna be crossed over itself. Then take it, just like tying your shoes, tuck it through the loop. You're gonna swoop it through and pull like a pretzel, pull it tight. Now you have this extra thread on the end, that's okay, you're not going to see it. You don't want it to be an awful lot of thread. You wanna try to keep your knot as close to the end as possible. The closer it is, the better off you'll be. So now I have my button and my eye. We don't wanna see this big extra piece on the front. So we're going to make sure that we always start by going through the back of our piece. So what you do is kind of put it where you want it, and then I'm just gonna poke through until I find the hole, which is through the button. Pull all the way. You need to make sure you pull it tight. And then dive back down through the other hole and pull. Up through the hole, down through the hole. And that will secure your button onto your piece. What you want to make sure that you don't do is when you're out the back, you want to make sure that you're not coming around the front and trying to dive down. If you do that, you will create a loop on your piece and you will always see that white string there. So do not do that. Once it's on the back, you need to tie another knot. So tying a knot, just like before, you're going to loop it. So you're creating that rainbow shape, crossing it over itself, tuck the needle through the loop, and you're gonna pull to make the pretzel. Now I'm pulling very tight, 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 tight. You want it tight. Once you have it tight, put your thumb on it and pull the needle thread so that you'll create the knot. Once it has a knot, you can remove the string and your button will be sewn on. But now you need to tie another knot in the end so you can reuse that string later. I'm going to tie the knot there and pull it through. Now that I know that this is attached and it's not going to be moving around, I'm going to use a straight pin to attach it onto it so that it doesn't move while I'm sewing. So what you want to do is kind of poke it through, just stab it straight through gently. This should be going through the front and the back of your piece. Then bend it to the side. So lay it down and push it back through so it pops out the top. That will keep it secure and not moving. I'm going to do the same thing for these teeth, even though they're very, very little, just because I don't want them scooting around. I'm going to flip them over so I don't see the pencil line. Okay, so there's my guy. He's all set up. He's all pinned together. Nothing is going to move. So now you can use that same color thread, or you can change the thread if you have another needle, if you want a different color. For the teeth, I wanted white, so I'm going to keep it white. Again, always starting on the back of your sewing, not on the front, because then you will get this knot sticking out the front. So starting on the back, you guys kind of have to feel for it. I like to line my finger up with wherever my piece is. Feel, feel, feel until you poke, and I'm gonna go right through it. So once it comes out in a spot that I like, which is on the tooth, I pull it tight again. So now I'm up through the front. I'm gonna dive down in the orange. So you wanna go from one piece to the other piece. I'm connecting two pieces. I'm connecting the white piece to the orange piece. So I'm gonna go in through the white, up, down through the orange. In through the white, up, down through the orange. Try to keep your stitches close together and very close. So when I'm going down through the orange, I'm going down right next to where it is on the white. You want to go right next to it. Up and down. I'm going to finish up sewing on these teeth, and then I will show you how to add your eye. You might have a stomach to add. You might have more than one eye to add, but I'm going to show you how to add that. It's very similar to this, almost exactly the same, and I'll see you in a minute. So I have finished sewing on both of the teeth. Now that they're attached, you can remove the pin and put it somewhere safe. So once you have that, now I have the string out the back. I need to remove this string again so we can practice bending the string, tucking it through, pulling it tight, putting your thumb on it, and then pull for the knot. Once you're finished that, you can cut off that string. Now, I could keep using this string because it's still about 10 inches long. You do not want your string to get any shorter than about 3 inches. It's going to be very hard to tie the knot if it's shorter than that. However, I want to switch my color for the eye, so I'm going to remove that string. I cut off the knot and I just pull the string out. That little piece of string is not going to be used again, so we can put it in the trash can. You still have that same needle as before though. So now you can choose the next color that you want to add. For this one, I think it would be kind of nice to have a bright yellow around the eye. So I'm going to choose the bright yellow, remove the papers, find the end, give it a pull, remove the frayed end of the string, and rethread my needle. I've rethreaded my needle. Remember to knot the end. So those two ends should be lining up. You're going to crisscross them, tuck it through, and pull. Remember, the closer you can get it to the end of the string, the better off you will be. Then, just like before, I told you this is the same thing. So you're always starting from the back. You want to start from the back and then kind of like poke around. Nope, not there. Nope, not there. You want it close to the edge of the pink. Now I'm going pink to orange this time. So I'm up through the pink, dive down through the orange right next to the pink. Make sure your string straightens out if it gets a little loop in it. Then right next to that, I like to keep my finger right where I want it. That way I can feel it come up and down. So you can see both of my fingers are right next to where the needle is. Remember, the needle is not going to hurt you. You are controlling the needle. So just make sure that when you're pushing it through, you're pushing it through very gently so that if it does end up poking you a little bit, it will not hurt you. That is why a sharp needle is so important. If you have a dull needle, the dull needle will try, you'll have to push, push, push. It's going to try to resist the fabric, and that's actually more dangerous. So make sure that you're going up through one piece, diving down through the next piece. Something that a lot of my students do when they are not quite paying attention to what they're doing, or they just get a little mixed up, is they will be down through the back and everything looks good, and then suddenly they'll come swimming around the edge of their piece and go down through the front. So you can see now, if I do this, I have this big loop that I can't get rid of. If that happens to you, you can try backing it out. This is very difficult to do because you have to go through two pieces of fabric. So I backed it out the best I could. Now I'm going to try to go back up the same holes I came out of. It's not easy, so try not to mess this part up. Always look where you're going. Let's see if I can get this back out. There we go. Okay. So without me being there, you're going to have to really watch it that you're going up and then right back down, right next to where you came up. Do not swim around your edge, okay? I'm going to let you sew on your pieces using the same technique, coming up through the first piece, diving down through the second piece, and this will get your other piece attached. When you're ready, you can unpause the video, and I'm going to show you the next step, which is embroidering. Embroidering is used to do straight lines. So anywhere that you have a straight line without a piece of fabric being sewn on will be embroidery. You can use this to make things like here, eyebrows, you could do eyelashes, you can do the mouth. You could also stitch on certain words if you had a word on your design. So embroidery is great for using those straight lines, anything that you would have drawn on, but not something, a shape that would be cut out. So go ahead, pause this video until you're finished sewing on any pieces that are separate, and I'll see you in a minute. There we go, final stitch. Always end on the back of your sewing. So when I pull it through, I want to make sure it's coming out the back of my sewing, not the front, so that you can add that knot. Loop it, swoop it, put your thumb on, and tie it tight. So now all the designs are attached to the front of your character. Once you have it ready to go, I'm going to show you how to embroider your last steps here. So I'm going to choose another color for the mouth, something that is different so it sort of stands out. I've already pre-threaded my needle, and this time I chose green for this part. So just like always though, you are going to be starting on the back. So make sure that your sewing hand is under and that your thumb is showing your finger where to go. So when you're poking around, you can find the right spot. So I want his mouth to start around here. I'm going to pull it till it's tight. Now, when you're doing an embroidery stitch, we are going to do a back stitch. So you're going to jump forward like a grain of rice, pull it through. Now that's a normal stitch. We've seen that before. This time when I come back up, instead of poking it next to it, I want to poke it right in the middle of that stitch. So I want to have it coming up right in between. It's going to split the threads. So we jumped back a half step. Go forward a full step. Pull, jump back a half step. Go split the rice in half. Jump forward a full step. Jump back a half step. Split it in half. So you can see you got to poke around a little. Once you see it poking up where you want it, then you pull it through. My embroidery section is almost finished. When it is done and you have the line where you want it, remember to always end on the back and tie your knot. So those are all the types of stitching that you'll need to know. We are now ready to connect the back piece of our stuffed character so that we can add stuffing in a little bit. This next step will take a while. So to get it started, you're going to line it up so that it matches. Now I can see that even though my character is kind of symmetrical, that definitely does not line up. Usually the cause of this is that the back piece is upside down. So try flipping it over and lining it up again. That is a million times better.